You have forgotten who you are. No, worse than that, you never knew. You are so convinced that you were born on a specific date, in a specific place, that you never stopped to ask yourself whether that is actually true. You were taught to fear death, to cling to life as if it were the only thing you have, while at the same time carrying the anguish of knowing that all of this will end. But here is the truth no one tells you. The truth the forgotten masters whispered centuries ago: you were never born. And if you were never born, how could you die? I know it sounds absurd. I know your mind is already looking for arguments to refute it. But before you close this video, stay. Because what you are about to discover is not a pretty metaphor or an empty spiritual consolation. It is a crack in the illusion you have lived your entire life. And once you see it, you will not be able to ignore it again. Think about this. When were you really born? You will name a date, a hospital. Maybe you remember the stories your parents told you. But that was not you. That was a body. A baby came into the world, yes, but that baby was not you. How can you be so sure? Because that baby no longer exists. The child you were at 5 years old no longer exists. The teenager you thought you were disappeared long ago. Every cell in your body has been renewed thousands of times since then. The thoughts you had, the beliefs you defended, the emotions that defined you, all of that vanished. So where are you in all of this? Who are you if everything you thought you were has already died? Nisargadatta Maharaj said it bluntly. You are that which was never born and will never die. But most people cannot accept it because they are too identified with form. They believe they are the body, they believe they are the name, they believe they are the story they have built. And that is the trap. Identity is a fiction, a narrative your mind created to make sense of chaos. But that narrative is not you. It is just a movie you are watching, and the problem is that you confused yourself with the character. Have you ever stopped to observe your thoughts? Not to think about them, but to observe them. There is a brutal difference. When you think, you are inside the chaos, trapped in the internal dialogue that never stops. But when you observe, there is distance. There is someone there who watches thoughts pass by without being dragged along by them. Who is that observer? It cannot be the mind, because the mind is what is being observed. It cannot be the body, because the body is just another object in your field of perception. So who are you? That question terrifies you, doesn't it? Because if you are not your thoughts, if you are not your body, if you are not your story, then the entire structure on which you built your life collapses. And human beings prefer to live in a comfortable lie than to face the void of the unknown. But here is what is fascinating. That void you fear so much is not emptiness at all. It is fullness. It is pure consciousness that has always been there, observing, waiting for you to stop identifying with the shadows on the wall. Heraclitus said that no one steps into the same river twice. But even that falls short. It is not just that the river changes. It is that you also change constantly. The you of 5 minutes ago no longer exists. Every second, every breath, every thought is a new version. And yet, something remains. That something does not change, is not born, does not die. It is the only thing that is real. Everything else is movement, transformation, illusion. Death terrifies you because you believe it is the end. You believe that when this body stops functioning, everything will shut off. But that is impossible. How can something end that never began? Consciousness has no start date, no expiration date. It is the only thing that exists before the body, during the body, and after the body. The body comes, the body goes. But consciousness simply is. It has always been. Think about your experience of sleep. Every night, the world you know disappears. Your body, your identity, everything dissolves. And yet, you continue to exist. In dreams, you take on another form, another story, another character. Are you less real in the dream than when you are awake? From within the dream, everything feels absolutely real. The emotions are real, the pain is real, the fear is real. But when you wake up, you understand it was an illusion. Now, what makes you think that what you call waking life is not exactly the same thing? What makes you believe you are not dreaming right now? Nisargadatta insisted on this. The world is a movie projected on the screen of consciousness. And you are not the character in the movie. You are the screen. Characters come and go, stories change, but the screen remains intact. It is never born, never dies. It simply is, and that screen is you. Not the you think you are, but the you that has been observing all along. But here is the problem. Most people are so hypnotized by the movie that they forgot they are the screen. They believe they are the protagonist, and when the protagonist suffers, they suffer. When the protagonist is afraid, they are afraid. When the protagonist dies, they believe they will die too. But that is absurd. The screen does not suffer when the character suffers. The screen does not die when the character dies. The screen simply observes, neutral, eternal, immutable. So why do you keep identifying with the character? Because you were taught to do so from the moment you were born. They told you, this is your name, this is your family, this is your place in the world. And you believed it. You built an identity around that information, and now you live with the constant terror of losing it. But here is the brutal irony. That identity is already being lost. Every second, every day, you are dying slowly. The child, you were already died. The teenager, you were already died. The person you were 5 years ago no longer exists. And yet, you are still here. How is that possible? Because what dies is not you. What dies are the forms, the identities, the roles. The father dies, but consciousness remains. The son dies, but consciousness remains. Success dies, failure dies, pain dies, joy dies. Everything dies except that which observes. And that observer has no form, no limits, no beginning or end. It is the only thing that never changes in a world of constant change. Epictetus expressed it another way. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. And the greatest mistaken opinion you have is believing that you are something that can be disturbed. You believe you are vulnerable, you believe you can be hurt, you believe you can die. But all of that is a lie. What can be hurt is the identity, not you. What can die is the body, not you. Consciousness has never been touched by anything that happens in the world of forms. Now, I know your mind is protesting. It is looking for proof, looking for logical arguments, trying to fit this into some category it already knows. But here is the problem. The mind cannot understand this. The mind is a useful tool for navigating the world of forms, but it is completely useless for understanding what lies beyond forms. Trying to understand consciousness with the mind is like trying to see the sun with a flashlight. The flashlight is useful in the dark, but ridiculous under the light of the sun. So how do you understand it? You don't. You experience it. And the way to experience it is to stop. Stop running, stop searching, stop trying to be someone. Just observe. Observe thoughts without clinging to them. Observe emotions without identifying with them. Observe the body without believing you are it. And in that space of pure observation, you will discover something extraordinary. That you have always been here. That you never left. That you were never born and will never die. But this is not an achievement, not something you can add to your spiritual resume. It is simply the recognition of what has always been true. It is like waking up from a dream and realizing everything was an illusion. You gained nothing, you lost nothing. You simply stopped believing the lie. And here is the part that hurts the most. Your entire life has been a defense against this truth. You have built walls of beliefs, identities, and roles to protect yourself from the void. But that void is not your enemy. It is your home. It is what you are when all the masks fall away, and the masks always fall sooner or later. Death rips them all away. But you do not have to wait for death to experience this. You can do it now. You can drop the lie now. Socrates knew this. Know thyself. But he was not talking about knowing your personality, your tastes, your preferences. He was talking about knowing what lies behind all of that. What observes the personality? What is aware of tastes? What remains when preferences change? That is you. Not the surface, but the deep ocean beneath the waves. Most people live their entire lives on the surface. They identify with the waves, success, failure, joy, pain. And when the waves become violent, they believe they are drowning. But if they descended just a little deeper, they would discover that at the bottom of the ocean, there is perfect calm. The waves never touch the bottom. Storms never reach it. It is the safest place that exists, and it has always been available. But no one taught you how to descend. They taught you how to surf the waves, how to control them, how to dominate them. And meanwhile, you got lost in the struggle. Now think about all the things that have defined you: your job, your relationships, your achievements, your failures. What remains when all of that disappears? Because everything will disappear. The job will end, relationships will change, achievements will be forgotten, failures will lose importance. What remains then? If your answer is nothing, then you were never anything to begin with. If your answer is something, then that something is the only thing worthy of your attention. Here is the paradox. Most people seek immortality in things that die. They want to be remembered. They want to leave a mark. They want to transcend through their works. But all of that is a distraction. True immortality is not sought. It already is. You do not need to transcend because you were never limited. What you think you are is a shadow projected by something infinitely greater, and that shadow has no power over what you truly are. Lao Tzu wrote, "He who knows he has enough is rich." And what you have is consciousness. You do not need more than that. You do not need to be special. You do not need to be important. You do not need to be remembered. Because all of that is part of the game of forms, and forms always end. But consciousness never ends. It is the only thing that cannot be destroyed because it has no form. It is invisible, untouchable, eternal. So what do you do with this information? How do you live knowing that you were never born and will never die? First, you stop taking yourself so seriously. The story you think you are is just that, a story. It is not the truth. You can enjoy it, you can play the game, but you do not need to believe it. Second, you stop fearing death. Death is just the end of a form, not the end of you. It is like changing clothes, nothing more. Third, you stop searching for happiness in external things. Happiness is nowhere because you already are happiness. Peace is not in the future, because you already are peace. You just need to stop searching. And here is what is most liberating. When you understand this, everything changes and nothing changes. You keep living, you keep working, you keep relating, but you do so without the weight of believing that all of this is definitive. You do it lightly, with humor, with grace, because you know it is just a game, a dance, a play, and when the play ends, you do not disappear. You simply leave the stage. Nisargadatta used to say, realization is not something you gain, it is something you recognize. You do not need to become something else. You already are what you have always been. You just need to stop pretending to be something else. And that stopping does not require effort. It requires surrender. Surrender to what is. Surrender to the truth. Surrender to the consciousness that has always been here, patiently waiting for you to stop running. So, are you ready to stop running? Are you ready to look directly at what you have been avoiding your entire life? Because there, at the center of your being, where all words stop, where all concepts dissolve, is the answer. It is not an intellectual answer, not a belief, not a theory. It is the direct experience of what you are. And once you experience it, you are never the same again. Although in truth, you were never different.